It's staying. Yay! Ni hao, Wisha Stephanie. I actually want to close up my computer here. I just ordered a new tripod because apparently, as I mentioned before, I have broken my my 4-foot one that stands on the ground and doesn't need a million tissue boxes to prop it up. That's not the point. I want to update you on my new project. Da, da, da. Okay, so y'all know, you've seen in about a bazillion videos, right, that I'm doing a Lightner box in envelope form. I've got HSK1, all of HSK1 is now in these 7 envelopes. And I'll update on how that is going with HSK1, but I want to tell you about my new project. I'm really excited. This is the first time since I started studying words, not just radicals, not just characters, but actual words in Chinese, that I feel that I have a handle on it. I did push my HSK test back a month. I'm taking it in March instead of February, and I'm really glad that I did. It's giving me time to work on the listening and the grammar components that I wasn't paying attention to, in addition to the vocabulary and making sure I get that right. So what that's done is that's given me time to bring in a project I've been meaning to start for a long time, which is my first ever mobile language learning mobile app. I do have a bunch of ideas for language learning apps for people learning English, but because I noticed a really big gap in the beginner section of learning Chinese in the market, I decided to start with that. I know my language level is so low, I should not be trying to make an app in Chinese or for Chinese learners, but I'm doing it anyway, because worst case scenario, I will learn as I make this app. Hey, that's a pretty good good worst case scenario, isn't it? So I don't want to tell you too much because it's kind of a secret, but I want to tell you a little bit. So it revolves around location names, and that's not really revealing that much because like in a lot of countries, cities and towns, and whether you call them provinces or prefectures or regions or what have you, and street names and those kinds of things often have the same name. For example, in China, a common street name in many cities is Shanxi. Is it Shanxi or Shanxi? Nah, we're going to let that go for a second. We're just going to say Shanxi. Let my bad English language transfer just take hold of that. And that street name exists in many cities in China, not just in Shanghai. So if you learn how to read Shanxi, you can read it anywhere you see it, whether it be on metros, on street names, in provinces, or anywhere else. Yay! So it's multifunctional once you learn the vocabulary for those location names. Yes, it's true that a lot of location names, from what I understand so far, are words that aren't used outside of locations. They might be like really infrequent words in the Chinese language that generally aren't used anywhere else. They might be people's names from history in China. Okay, fine. So they're not high frequency words, but in that regards, but they are high frequency words as far as if you want to be able to navigate in Hanzi characters within China. That's pretty useful, right? Now, I know if you're in I feel like I'm doing a ton of disclaimers. If you live or have traveled in first tier cities only in China, you'll probably say, hey, the pinyin characters are there and it's easy enough to pronounce. Or a lot of times they'll have the English. Like when you go near People's Square in China, you'll see in English People's Square, and you don't really need to be able to read the signs. However, once you get out of the tier ones, that is less likely to be as abundant as it is in the tier ones. Plus, kudos for being able to read a map of China in Hanzi characters. Pretty satisfying. So instead of relying on the pinyin always or relying on the translation always, you can actually get a lot of bang for your buck in learning the most common location names. So my app revolves around that. It's using the location names as an entry into the language. And I'm not really revealing too much when I say that, because how I do it is something that I'm not telling you. So I'm taking my low-level Chinese and my 15 years of language teaching and freshing them all together. That's not even a word. Pushing them all together and coming up with it. So I just started, where is my paper? I just started working on the flashcards so I can learn the words first and see if the algorithm that I made works for learning them for other people who haven't spent 10 months going through the background of the language. So this is my own tester. I'm using myself as a tester on how I can break this down in the way that I think I might be able to on this in a mobile app. So there's a lot of, I'm using the Shanghai Metro. I'm using just the metro stops within the ring road. A lot of cities have ring roads, and Shanghai is no different. There's a ring road with many different lines, metro lines going through it, and there's a lot of stuff outside of it, and more all the time. Line 17 apparently is a new line up here. Not up here, but literally going this way from the road. Anyway, that's not the point. That's totally not the point. So I have, within that ring road, there's 10 different metro lines. So I'm doing my flashcards line by line because that'll give me a way to break it up into inserting 10 new cards into my Lightner system. Again, I have kind of a break while I'm getting all of the cards from HSK1 up to level 7. I need some new cards to come in, and I don't want to start HSK1 yet. I don't need to until mid-March. With plenty of time to finish by my May test. But I need new cards. I need newness coming in, so it's not just recycling the HSK1 cards. I need to constantly be learning, despite the fact that some of the HSK1 cards feel like they've been at level 1 for forever. I need newness in order to keep going. It's part of the monotony of when you're at this low of a level, you need new information. You need to feel like you're moving forward, even if you feel stuck on some level, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I decided to finally bring this project in. So I'll be introducing about 5 or 10 cards, depending on what's going on that day, flashcards of these location names. So I started with line 2 today, which is light green on the metro map in Shanghai, and there were 8 metro stops there. Now, I ran into 2 big obstacles with this already today, and I envision this will happen with all of the lines that I'm going to, all of the 10 lines that I'm going to do, and all of the metro stops that I'm going to find. And these are problems that I don't necessarily find with the HSK vocabulary and the other vocabulary that I've seen, that I was trying to learn before I started HSK1. So here's the deal. Because the location words aren't necessarily common words, it's harder to find. Do you see the glasses? I need to be able to pinch, to be able to write the characters like this. I need to be able to pinch like crazy to deconstruct them. Pleco doesn't necessarily have, even if you break down the words, like for example, when I hit Lujiahui, this is a street or a metro station on line 2 in Pudong, which is over the river from Puxi, which is where like downtown Shanghai is. Anyway, that means nothing to you, but I like saying that because Puxi is west of the river, Pudong east of the river. Awesome. Pu is river, by the way. Wrong tone, but I got the pinyin, I think. Anyway, so with that one, that's Nightmare Creature. Again, I underlined to show myself this is 1 syllable, this is 2nd syllable, this is the 3rd syllable. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd syllable. Anyway, the point in that was, it was hard to find, especially this last syllable. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure I wrote this wrong, because this part in the pictures that I found and in the map that I was using, I couldn't pinch it enough to deconstruct that. And although I could find this in Pleco, this syllable in Pleco, I could easily find Ja in Pleco because that's family, that's one we've seen before. I couldn't find Sui in Pleco. And so I looked all over. I looked all over the internet, and I looked at a bunch of maps and things, and it was really, really hard to see. So I'm actually going near this station this week for an appointment. So I'm actually going to take a picture of it and then deconstruct it and rewrite it on this card. So that's one thing that I'm noticing, is that it's sort of hard to hone in on and to find the Hansa characters in a way that I can that I can draw them. They're not necessarily in Pleco, so I can't necessarily use their stroke order function, and so it's a little bit harder to see them. Now ones like this, like Renmin, why am I trilling my R? Yeah, Renmin Guangcheng. I still cannot do the rising tone to save my life. Anyway, this is People Square, which you can see by people here. That's Ren, that's people, right? I think these together actually, Ren Min. I forget what Min means. Anyway, Gong and Chong. So that's People Square. People Square. That one is pretty easy to write, and the components were very easy to find, and I think I did an okay job with that script. I'm sure there's a little bit off, especially in Chong here, because that's not what I've written very often, but that wasn't too bad. But then when we get to things like also in Pudong, oh, I didn't even write the translation for this. Whoops, I gotta do that. This is Century Square. This shouldn't be connected here. This is one part, and this is another part of this syllable, but I accidentally connected them right here. So that was a challenging one to pinch, but again, I'm going on that line very close to Century. Century Park, I think, is the name. I'm putting a question mark near that because I think it's called Century Park. Anyway, so that was challenging. That's not something I encountered with the other words that were frequent, and that with the list of the HSK, they give you the definition, and Pleco has them so I can do their stroke order function, and it's super easy. So that was something that took me a lot longer to do 8 cards than it did with the HSK cards. So HSK lists are spoiling when it comes to learning new vocabulary. This felt like it was going off the grid language learning wise, but I'm really excited to start this. So I pushed through and I did all 8 today. I'm pretty happy that I did all 8. What was the second thing? Oh, this is interesting. I think this is interesting. When it comes to north, south, east, and west, I did notice when we moved back this time, I paid more attention to street names and the order of them in Chinese when I said them, and I'm looking for my example. There's only 8, so this won't take too long. Okay, so this one is Nanjing Donglu, which is Nanjing East Road. Nanjing East Road. There's a great dollar store near there, and this is near the Bund, which is beautiful at night. Anyway, the Bund is on the Pooh River. The river. It's on the river. It's not the Pooh River. It's oh geez Louise, I'm gonna forget the name of the river. This is so embarrassing. Let's focus on the Hanzi. Right. So if you'll notice here, it's Nanjing. I didn't actually underline this one because I know this road really well because I go to this station a lot. Nanjing East Road. But we wouldn't really say that in English, would we? We'd say East Nanjing Road. And we do when we say it in English, but when you say it in Chinese, it's in this order. So I had to kind of flip it around a little bit and make sure I got it in this order, because let's face it, if you're going to learn the Hanzi, you might as well learn how to say it in that language as well, right? So you want to get the order down as well. Now I'm not translating Nanjing even though it's South City, because Nanjing is an actual place, and if you can say Nanjing, you say Nanjing. You don't need to, it's a place. You don't need to translate a place, just like I don't need to translate Shanghai. Yes, Shanghai is on, I think it's supposed to be on the river, on the water, but Hai is not water, so now I'm completely brainless because I've apparently done too much of these today. So I'm not going to translate places like that. But yeah, so that, again, here's Zhongshan Guang. I just showed you that one, didn't I? Zhongshan Park. The last 2 here together are the word park. These 2 together, these 2 syllables, characters, components, whatever the heck they're called, are park. Okay, so I am checking them here with my Metroman app once I have them to make sure that this matches the actual Shanghai Metro app, so I'm not memorizing something that doesn't exist or is wrong in any way, shape, or form. So it is taking a little bit longer. So but those are the 2 main problems. It's taking a while to find the Hanzi script that I can pinch to the point where I can write them myself. And stare at them, because if they're too small, I can't see the differences, and there's a lot of a lot of words and a lot of characters that look similar to each other, so I need to be able to zoom. And sometimes these don't work as good as possible. I mean, they work, but again, with the characters that are so similar to each other, I really need to see it big on my screen. I literally like to see it that big, if not bigger, as I'm writing it. It's just really, really helpful. And the second thing was the word order with the direction north, south, east, west, and making sure I got those right in conjunction to how you actually say them in Chinese. So I have a lot. I don't actually want to count how many of these are within the ring road that I'm going to build up and do this app with. I don't want to count them all. I'm going to do them line by line until I hit all 10 lines, and then I'll see where I am. I intentionally am doing it that way. So these are going into the envelope number 1. They're going to get mixed in with HSK1. And I have labeled them as Metro, so I'm not going to confuse them. If it takes me a long time to learn them, so be it. Again, it's more of the process of the idiosyncrasies and the information that I want to include in the app when teaching these via the app that is important than getting them up to level 7. So I'm pretty excited to include that kind of vocabulary in there. I think it'll give me kind of a brain break in the HSK1 monotony. It'll open up Shanghai for me for sure, because there will be, again, not just the metro names, but these metro names are also a lot of street names, and sometimes it's easier to see the street names than the pinyin below them when you're walking by them really fast or things like that. So it's just interesting to be able to read the Hanzi characters and not rely on the pinyin. So I think this will make walking around and looking at street signs more interesting again. I did that a little bit at first, and then I kind of stopped because I was focusing on a different thing. So I think it's being able to read the local language, not the phonetic crutch that exists, which is beautiful that it's there, but I want to stop reading the pinyin all the time. Anyway, so that is my new project inserted into the Lightner envelopes, the Lightner system. I'm still not entirely sure what to call this. So I'm pretty excited about this. Again, I don't want to tell you any more about the app because I don't want you to make this. And it's going to take me a long time to figure out. I've done some coding, but I haven't done mobile apps yet. And I'm going to try to do it in a way that's a little bit simpler than I thought initially, but it's still going to take me time. So I'm starting on the vocabulary now to make sure I've got how it's going to be taught down before I start the coding part. Because this is going to take me all year. I guarantee you it's going to take me all year at least. If it happens sooner, that's great, but I don't expect to have even the simplest of like 5 examples of this learning process within the app to be done before the year's end. And it's almost March, so that's pretty optimistic even for my first mobile app. But once I learn how to use the programs I think I'm going to use to do this, I can probably bang out the next few apps in English or Chinese, depending on what I want to do next, pretty quickly, and that'll be pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited. I've been trying to move towards making mobile apps for a number of years for language learning, and I've got a lot of ideas. Got a lot of ideas that I've been holding on to. I've been learning other stuff that will help make the apps, but not actually make them. So this has been a long time coming, and I'm super excited to start. You know that wave of relief when you finally get the steps to doing something you've been wanting to do for a while, even though you've only made a baby step in doing it? That's the amount that my shoulders have gone down today from the relief of finally starting this project, even if it is only 8 flashcards in, to beginning to understand, 1, if it's doable, and 2, if the way that I think I might do it would work. So it's a learning process. Everything's a learning process. The learning itself and the learning of the learning. If that makes any sense at all. Anyway, thank you for watching, and yeah, more soon. Oh, and no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bring that much coding stuff into this video. If you've done language learning mobile apps before and you feel the desire to geek out with me, even though my knowledge of how to make them is kind of small at this point on the technical side. high on the language learning side, low on the technical side, please feel free to contact me. I would love to pick somebody's brain on how to make these. I have some ideas on how I want to do it, so if you have done it and I can pick your brain on if this would work, that would be awesome. But I don't want to really do this in a video format. I'd rather that be more confidential, offline kind of conversations. So I'll just put that out there just in case any of you are particularly good at coding in any way, shape, or form, but specifically mobile apps.